Gareth, away from home again, I see.
Yeah, well, you know where I am. I'm in Miami. Annoyingly and probably gratifyingly for you, it's freezing cold here. It's the coldest it's been for 40 years. So even
Wow.
though I stayed a couple of days after bare knuckle boxing BKB 50, their historic event here in Miami, I've been cycling. You can't buy a pair of gloves here. It's the coldest few days for 40 years. You can't buy gloves in Miami. Um, Washing up gloves. I've been everywhere, been to 5 shops. It's freezing cold. You know I like to have a bike ride along the seafront, but it's great to be here, but I'm looking forward to getting home tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw you on your bike talking about the event, and I was like, "Oh, he's loving it. Like, he's on the bike. He's next to the water. This is pure Gareth A. Davis in heaven." So I'm actually happy to know that it isn't heaven for you right now because you've enjoyed a few hot places in the last few weeks. But no, look, we'll talk a bit about BK, the bare knuckle boxing event you was at, number 50, I believe. We'll touch on that because it was a big one. But let's start with what we both saw, Madison Square Garden, Shakur Stevenson, who has been touted as an all-time great potentially. I think we can get rid of the tout bit and say he's going to be that because that was a special performance on the weekend.
Well, I'm glad you said dominated in a dominating performance in the intro because we did get double dominance from him. We spoke about this on the show last week. I think I went in the end for Teo Lopez being 52-48 in terms of what he might have physically in advantages in this fight, and given the 2 wins over the great southpaws, Josh Taylor and Vasyl Lomachenko. But it was a shutout. It was almost, I don't want to call it boring, but people were saying, oh, it's so boring. But Teo was meant to give him a real challenge. He didn't look like he cracked all week, either mentally. He danced on stage. He just did not have it either technically and by the 5th round physically against Shakur Stevenson. Yes, I think he's on the way to being an all-time great. I've always thought all-time great is very big at this stage, but 4-weight world champion, Ade, for me, he was so impressive. Everything about Shakur Stevenson, for me, is impressive.
Yeah, and look, I think he can become a 5-weight world champion, which it's crazy when you think about him starting at 126 pounds. But I do believe that there's not many that could do damage to him at 147 pounds easier. So either. I'm shocked by Teo's performance as well. I think I had Teo giving him a really good fight. I think I edged it to Shakur, but I thought Teo was really going to do something. I thought he looked good, as you said, in the lead up to the fight all week. He looked like he'd controlled his mental state, which has been a question that we've kind of posed about him over the last few years. And I thought this was going to be something special. And from the very first round, you could see this was going to be one-way traffic. Yeah. But he did nothing in that fight. How much blame does need to be laid at the feet of his dad and that corner advice, which was non-existent? Or is it just because of Shakur was just so special?
I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other in this one, that they didn't have a strategy for him being outmaneuvered by the jab early on, by the way, the spearing jab of Shakur. This is why we talk about the jab being so fundamental in boxing. When you get your face jabbed off from the early part of the fight, your brain puts you in retreat. Father Teo Lopez Sr. didn't have the requisite wherewithal to say, change the game plan, do something different. I don't know what he could have done differently, frankly, but I was expecting him to be more bullish in there, but he seemed to be dismantled so quickly by Shakur, broken mentally. I thought in the week, like you say, I thought Shakur getting out of his seat in the press conference, when Shakur got out of his seat and went over there, I thought, oh, he's got under Shakur's skin here at the press conference, and it was very unlike Shakur. Shakur always fronts up, but not to that extent. But I think he was doing box office, if I'm honest, which again is a new part of his repertoire. By round 5, he was beating him technically, he was beating him mentally, he was beating him emotionally, and then he was just beating him up physically. He looked like the bigger, stronger man in there. So Teo just wasn't good enough on the night. And Shakur, as we found against William Zepeda last year, a challenge for him. When he steps up, he steps up.
Is the only critique, and this is a small one because we'll get to like where he now lies in the pound for pound discussion. But is the only critique is that he doesn't go through the gears enough when they're hurt to get rid of them. Like, I mean, he again, he's always likened to Terence Crawford. And even Pretty Boy Floyd went through the gears and hurt people when he knew they were hurt to get them out of there. Terence, we know, is super spiteful. I felt there was a time on Saturday where there was a bit more he could have done to really make a statement and get Tio out of there. And I think I saw that against Cepeda as well. Is that the only small critique, or am I just trying to find things here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. They're interesting points you raise, but being around Floyd Mayweather for how long, I can't even remember how long it was, probably 14 years at all his fights. Towards the end, when he had a difficult opponent, he didn't necessarily go for broke, and he was comfortable in there. Prior to Mayweather, we didn't have the same criticism of people like Pernell Whitaker. You know, prior to him, it was probably someone like Sugar Ray Leonard was the standout in terms of boxing skills that won him his fights. He was a different cat altogether, one of the greatest of all time. And he did show amazing things, and he dazzled with so much. But I've got to say, you know, as you know, I go back a long time watching fights live and working on them, not as a fan, but working on them. People said the same of Mayweather. They wanted to see people hit him hard. When Shane Mosley landed heavily in the second round against Floyd Mayweather and took his legs from underneath him a little bit, everyone got excited. When Marcos Maidana had his first fight with Floyd Mayweather and pinned him on the ropes for 6 rounds and battered him with hooks, we were all excited. When Canelo got in with him, we were all excited. But he's got a way of working technical boxing skills, the art of boxing. I want to talk about the appreciation. Look what we said before the fight, and look what we're saying after the fight with Tio and Shakur. I think we've just got to appreciate the all-round artistry of Shakur Stevenson. It's about what he did in this fight, not what Tio didn't do for me.
Okay, the question in the aftermath of big wins is always what next, right? I mean, we don't give time for these fighters to really enjoy the victory. It's an immediate, okay, who do you want next? You look at the 140 landscape, it's Richardson Hitchens, it's Dalton Smith, it's potentially his stablemate who he's never going to fight, I don't think, in Keyshawn Davis. 147 now has Conor Benn. It has Devin Haney. It's got Teofimo Lopez rematch potentially. Who would you like to see him, before we hear from him and Conor going back and forth, who would you like to see him fight next?
For me, it would be Devin Haney. I wouldn't mind him having one more fight at 140. I mean, selfishly, I'd love to see him fight Dalton Smith, but I think he beats Dalton Smith hands down. And, you know, I'd love Dalton to do brilliantly in that fight, but I think Shakur is very talented, and he's grown into the weight, and at 28, he's really in his prime now. I think we're going to get 3 prime years from him. I would like to see the Devin Haney fight. And I'd like to see him, because I think if he beats Devin Haney at 147, the welterweight, 10 stone 7 in the welterweight division, I think if I can bring him pound for pound here, I think he goes to number 1 pound for pound in the world, 5-weight world champion, because Devin is the best at 147 in my view, the most technically proficient. I love the matchup and seeing them in the ring battling and struggling with each other. Devin's become very strong physically. So that's the fight I'd like to see, Ade. And then Conor Benn, if Conor Benn can beat the winner of Mario Barrios and Ryan Garcia, you could do that in a stadium in the UK. You could do it in Vegas. You could do it at Madison Square Garden. He's just sold out Madison Square Garden. So at the moment, for me, my final thing on this, Shakur moves to 3 pound for pound in the world behind Naoya Inoue and Alexander Usyk, and just ahead of Bam Rodriguez, who I've got at 4.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I have him as number 3 as well now. I've got Usyk, Inoue and Shakur Stevenson, and then Bam and Bivol and Bam, whatever way. But I do think Shakur, being a 4-weight world champion, beating the number 1 at 140 pounds in the way in which he did it, I think he has to jump to number 3. All right, I asked you the question about who Shakur would like to fight next. Shakur looks like he's got his eyes set on one person, and that's Conor Benn, who he called out immediately after the fight.
I'm into big fights. I like big fights. I like big money fights. I like proving that I'm the best, and I like doing things that people say I can't do. There's a lot of people that will say that I'm too little for Conor Benn and I can't do it. So it makes for a tremendous fight. It's gonna be a good beef. I like the beef. I like the story behind it, and it's a tremendous fight.
I just wanted to follow up on the Conor Benn conversation. I saw him after the fight, and I just asked him. I said, "Hey, would you agree to that rehydration clause?" And he said, "F no." So my question for you is, how does that fight get made then?
If he's not going to agree, then we probably don't fight. So he's just wasting time. We'll see. But I'm a businessman at the end of the day, and like I said, he did a rehydration clause with Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank was in the ring half dead. Why can't he do the same thing?
That's Shakur Stevenson there. Speaking about Conor Benn, again, at the post-fight press conference, you guys would have watched the in-ring interview with Mannix when, again, he made a beeline for Conor Benn. There's a lot of talk about Conor Benn getting in the ring and why should he? Why should you not when the champion just called you out? I loved what Conor Benn did. Everyone should take note. If someone calls you out in a big fight, get in the ring and go nose to nose and face to face. Everyone in America knows who Conor Benn is because of that now. And I think it's perfect from Conor Benn. And I knew it was going to happen. As soon as Shakur Stevenson said Conor Benn, I was with a few people watching. I was like, Conor Benn's going to get in the ring right now. What do you make of this? Look, it's a fight that could happen, right? Conor Benn's put himself in a position where he is now almost got 5 or 6 fights that he could make, all big fights. I don't mind the call out, and I don't mind Conor Benn getting in the ring either.
Yeah, Conor Benn could easily fight Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, or Mario Barrios. Probably not Teo Lopez now, but definitely Shakur Stevenson is one of those guys in the frame there. He's box office. He looked like Dennis Rodman. He had the blonde bleached hair. He was rolling with Rolly Romero, of course, headbutting each other next to Turki Al-Sheikh, who was playing security guard in the VIP seats on the night. Rolly hadn't responded at the Ring Magazine Awards the night before. Conor did exactly the right thing. Go away, naysayers and nitpickers. He did exactly the right thing in New York. And like you say, I completely concur with you. Yes, I can see the Shakur Stevenson fight. And also, the flack he's getting for getting in the ring. He wasn't trying to steal Shakur's limelight. He was called into the ring by Shakur. They were being box office. He's a box office fighter now. He's got 20 million or whatever it is in the bank after last year. He's away from his controversies over the last couple of years. He wants big fights. Let's embrace what he can do. And I'd like to see Shakur over in the UK because I think it would fill a stadium. I think he's become the face of the sport in America. I think he's a great face for the sport in America. And I think he will go to number one pound for pound if he beats Devin Haney. I think he'll go there anyway. I think he's a very, very special character, and we've seen it for some time. And I'd like to see him slice up Conor Benn.
You know what's interesting? I mean, look, you've been around Conor, so have I. I know he fought his last couple of fights at 160, but physically he's not a big guy. He's as big as these guys, if anything. I don't see much difference between him walking around and Tio walking around and Devin walking around. I think all of them walk around the 170 mark. I don't think Shakur needs a rehydration cap to fight Conor, is what I'm getting at. I know Shakur's like, do me the way you did Chris Eubank. I think Shakur could fight him at 147 without anything. Like, just make the fight at 147. No rehydration cap needed. Shakur's a big guy. As you said, he outmanned Teofimo Lopez, who's made his way now to 147 after the fight. So I don't think this needs a rehydration cap. I think this is just a straight 147 fight, and everyone weigh what they want to weigh on the night.
It's a straight playing with his mind as well, though. It's kind of saying, yeah, the fight's great, but you're going to have to make some concessions for me, baby, because I'm the A side on this. So you're going to have to listen to me. He's playing mind games. He's doing box office. Conor should acquiesce to everything that Shakur Stevenson wants, because it's another mega fight, money-wise and business-wise, and it is an incredible opportunity. As I said, I think Shakur slices him up, but Conor will come like a raging bull at him. And I think the prospect of it is very exciting. And he will force Shakur to fight. And again, if Conor does beat him, he becomes legendary. So and he'll want to take that opportunity.
Yeah, there's almost no lose here for Conor. Yeah,
No.
I mean, you're going to fight an all-time great, a pound for pound, as we said, number 3, could go higher. You get beat by Shakur, no problem. It's Shakur Stevenson. Yeah. You do well against Shakur, your stock rises, even if you lose. If you win, oh my God, it's jackpot. It's jackpot. So I think Conor's done a fantastic job in the last week in America. He's been busy on social media. As you say, he's rolling around with everyone. He's had a push and a shove with Devon. He's starting fights everywhere because he knows he needs dance partners. And now, as I said, I think he's got 4 or 5 dance partners. And I think everyone should take note of what he's doing. I hate the narrative, he's only doing it because of his dad's name. No, he's come out of that shadow. This is now about Conor Benn. And Conor Benn decided to go his own lane, his own route, and I'm loving it.
I am as well, and I concur completely with what you're saying. Like I say, you have to call him pure box office. He's got the controversies behind him. What I think, if I look at the sequence with Mario Barrios defending the WBC welterweight crown against Ryan Garcia on February the 21st, hopefully nothing goes wrong there. If Conor fights the winner in, say, keep building it. If Conor fights the winner in, let's say, June or July, if they can make it by then, you can get him, and he's got a world title fight then at 140. At 147. So that brings Shakur up to 147 to fight for a belt as well. I think it's manna from heaven if he wins it. I'm not sure he beats Ryan Garcia or Barrios, but he's got an opportunity against both those. Maybe more Barrios, maybe more Garcia than Barrios is what I mean. But if he's got a belt, then that definitely gets a chance to bring Shakur up to the welterweight division for a really big showdown.
Yeah, I'm adamant they're going to make Conor versus Rolly Romero. I'm adamant they're not going to let Conor sit out for nearly a year. I think they're going to go Rolly because he's ready to go. Conor's ready to go. Conor beats him, he's got a belt, and then it's anyone Conor wants. One person, right. One person Conor could fight, who he was linked with for a couple of years, has just won a belt in the 154 division, and that's Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly with that incredible win over Matazaliev in Newcastle in the Northeast. We don't get many world champions from the Northeast. We certainly don't get world champions from Sunderland. I think he's the first world champion from Sunderland. An incredible performance from Josh, which some have said he's running away, he's on the back foot, but that's his style, and his style beat Matazaliev's style. It was a case of 2 styles, and Josh Kelly's style won out.
Yeah, I was delighted for he and Adam Booth. I followed you. Obviously, you were up there working. It was an amazing thing to witness. So delighted for him, and you could feel the outpouring of excitement and love from the crowd, from his family, from his corner, from DAZN even. It was. I hadn't picked him to win it. I thought he was going to have a very tough night. My heart wanted him to win, but my head said no. I was delighted to be wrong. I've got to be honest with you. And, for me, it's one of the great victories by a Brit. Murtazali, a very tough fighter, but there's so many great fights out there now for Josh Kelly. Not just Conor Benn. There's Xander Zayas, Sebastian Fundora, Boots Ennis, and Virgil Ortiz, who aren't even champions in that weight class. So many big fights for him. Conor Benn as well. Yeah, I'm not sure Conor Benn would take that fight because it's a difficult style for him, Josh Kelly. But brilliant victory. And as I say, great to see the Dark Lord, who I've known since the David Hay days, pull some magic because the game plan was so clever. And also he hung on in the end to win the title as well. Brilliant victory, Ade.
Yeah, incredible victory, as you say. We've had some big ones recently. Dalton Smith, Subriel Matias, which was considered an upset because obviously Dalton having to go to America. This is probably as big because Matazaliev unbeaten. Again, not many people would pick Josh Kelly. I think everyone knew he could kind of outbox him in the first 6 or 7 rounds, but would the gas tank empty? Would Matazaliev get to him? And he did in round 9, but Josh rallied with the help of the crowd, with the help of Adam Booth, and we now have a world champion. We had, I think this time last year, correct me if I'm wrong, Gareth, we had 1 male world champion. That was Nick Ball. I believe we have 5 now.
It's 6. It's 6 and 4 women. So it's Josh Kelly, Fabio Wardley, Lewis Crocker, Dalton Smith, Jazza Dickens, Nick Ball, Lauren Price, Katie Taylor's Irish, Caroline Dubois, Terry Harper, Ellie Scotney.
Okay, yeah, we have.
So
10,
it's
we have
pretty
9,
cool,
yeah.
isn't it?
It's improving. I think the females have done us justice over the last few years. It's the males that have let us down, and finally they're starting to pick up some belts as well. All right, final word on the weekend, and look, we have to talk about Jarrell Miller and the hairpiece, the wig coming off during a fight. I think it's one of the most embarrassing things I've seen in a long time. And look, fair play to Jarrell Miller. He's doing the rounds. He's milking it. He's been on chat shows. He's on the Breakfast Club, which is a massive radio show in America, like a massive culture radio show. He was with Shannon Sharp and that team. So he's doing the rounds, but I still find it quite embarrassing that he would even resort to a wig.
Well, I just want to say at this point, full disclosure, mine is not a wig.
Many have thought it was. Many have.
And obviously Derek Chisora wanted me to go bald and shave my head if he beat Otto Wallin, which I'm so pleased I never agreed to. I mean, you've got a beautiful cranium, and yeah, there you are in all its glory, I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the fact it landed in Fabio Wardley's lap maybe indicated we should be getting Fabio Wardley versus Jarrell Miller next. And I think that would be a good fight, as would Ajit Kabayel and Jarrell Miller, by the way. I think he's a great gatekeeper fight for both of those, even though, again, he's not ranked in the top 15 of any of the 4 sanctioning bodies that we're currently talking about at the moment, which I'm surprised by. I thought, look, Jarrell Miller loves getting stuck into people and sending them up, but I thought he took it really well. I'm just really disappointed that he didn't have the proper thread on there and that it could have been punched off in the way it was. And I loved the skit of him. Have you seen him driving the open top car with the hair up like a flap? It was one of those funny moments. Even Sky Nicholson put it on her head at one point, didn't she? The female Australian boxer. So a lot of fun. But yeah, come on. I think all the hair... I even had an email from a doctor talking about how it was such a poor hairpiece. Why wasn't he using proper skills to it? It shouldn't come off like that, you know? But there you go.
There you go. What he's very fortunate with is that no one's talking about his performance, which actually wasn't that great. And everyone's now focused on the hairpiece. So he's almost got away with it a little bit, because if that was just a routine performance and there was no hairpiece controversy, I think people would have said something like, 37, again, well over 300 pounds. Does he need to kind of look at what he's doing in his career? But he's almost got away with the fact that that happened, and now no one's focusing on the fact that it was a split decision win. And actually, it's a fight that I thought he lost. So he's, I think he's lucky in that sense.
I don't, but the drugs charges notwithstanding, which will always be there in the background. And I've known Jarrell a really, really long time. I knew when he was in kickboxing against Mirko Krokop in Glory. I want to say 15 years ago it was in the Forum in Los Angeles. I was at that covering Glory events at the time. He's only lost once in his entire career. I thought he beat Andy Ruiz on the Ring Magazine card in Los Angeles. He's only lost to Daniel Dubois, and that was like towards the end of the fight. He's got a couple of draws. He's got one defeat on his record. I think that's why I think he should be in the top 15 of at least one of the sanctioning bodies. And I don't disagree with what you've just said, by the way. And he just wafer thinly got through this fight. But right now, with Ajit Kabayel and Fabio Wardley looking for fights, even though I'd love to see Daniel Dubois in with Fabio Wardley, by the way, he's a possible option for those guys in a voluntary defence.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I would have, if possible, Jarrell Miller on every fight card, which obviously isn't possible. But because he brings so much fun to it, you know what he's going to bring. And look, when he gets in the ring, it is action as well. So I just want him to get a bit more serious. You mentioned the fight against Krokop there. It's probably about 240 pounds back then. He's now a 300-pound record machine. I think he's just a bit too heavy. I think he struggles with that as well. I think in terms of what he tries to do, I don't think you can do it at 320 pounds. I'd love to see him get down a bit in weight, and then we can see him have the last couple of years in exciting fights. That's my only thing with him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And he's changed his ring sobriquet from Big Baby, hasn't he? So, which I think is interesting.
No more Big Baby. Yeah. We'll see what he does anyway. But it was a good weekend of boxing, loads of fights, and a perfect way to end the month of January. So, all right, loads of heavyweight news. As soon as we stopped filming last week, all this happened, which was quite annoying. If we filmed on the Wednesday, you would have got all of this news from us immediately, but that's boxing. It moves so quick. One of the big talking points, Gareth, last week was that Daniel Dubois, who left Don Charles to go Tony Sims, has now done a U-turn and is now back to Don Charles, who obviously guided him to become IBF heavyweight world champion. It's a strange one, but I guess he's made the right decision in the end. I mean, he didn't really need to leave Don Charles after what they went through, right? 5 fights, 2 against Usyk, the other 3 against Hrgovic, Miller, and AJ. It's good work. Why change something that's not really broken?
Yeah, I think we all agreed at the time that it was probably hard done by on Don Charles that Dubois and his father Stan and the team left the farm. I mean, I went up there in the build up to the Usyk fight. Well, obviously, we, like you just said, he started with the first Usyk fight in Poland. Beaten twice by a great fighter, but in the middle, 3 brilliant victories and winning a world title on a big night against Anthony Joshua that he rightly got a lot of praise for, as did Don Charles. And it seemed like under Don Charles, he'd turned the corner, he'd done his rite of passage. He'd left the village as a boy and come back as a man, if you know what I mean. He'd gone on that spiritual and physical journey. And I did find a difference in Daniel up at the farm interviewing. I think you went up there as well. He's great to deal with and more open than before. Maybe I don't know the reason, but I can imagine because Stan, his father, has got so much control over him. I think my kind of my feelings are, and I don't know because I haven't spoken to Tony Sims or Stan or Daniel or even Don, are that it didn't work because Stan needs to have a lot of say in what's going on. And Tony was like, my gym's very busy. I can't handle it. I don't know whether they've had a falling out. Haven't heard of a falling out, but I'm pleased for Don Charles because it's the right place for Daniel to be. I think spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and maybe even physically. And I think they'll have a better partnership. You know, it's like that, you know, you were in love with that person and you have a bit of time apart and you realize what you missed about them. And when you get back, it's even better the second time. I hope so. Anyway, the romantic in me hopes it's that.
Yeah, I always felt like that farm, as you mentioned, that gym was, I mean, there's other fighters in the gym, but it's a gym basically for Daniel Dubois.
Yes.
It's a gym built on him, for him.
Yes.
Whereas obviously Tony Sims' gym, as you know, busy gym, a lot of fighters, and you don't maybe get that one-on-one personal training that Don was giving to Daniel, because there is Conor Benn, there is Johnny Fisher, there is Lidard, there's Jimmy Sains. There's a lot of fighters there, and I probably missed out a few big ones as well. Craig Richards is there. I said Conor. Yeah, so it's a busy gym, whereas as you get the farm, it literally, Don's rolled the red carpet out for Daniel. Like, this is all about you. And maybe I think Daniel's realized that. And, you know, sometimes absence makes the heart go fonder, as you just mentioned. So maybe it's a perfect realignment of the two. And I think we should all just kind of say, okay, it was a mistake going to Tony. This is Don. Let's go back and see what you can do. Some other big news as well in the world of boxing. And I guess we've all been waiting, and there was no time limit on it for AJ to say something. This could have happened 4 months later. Who knows, right? Who's going to tell AJ when to speak about something that's been so catastrophic in his life? But he did do a video. He did a very emotional 6-minute video, which was on his social media platforms. He spoke about Lats and Sinner wanting to carry on what they started. I spoke to a friend of Lats who wanted to build a hospital/school in Nigeria. I'm guessing that means AJ is going to carry on and finish that. He seemed to have accepted what's happened. And I guess what I mean by that is it was so horrific that's going to take some time to get over. And you might almost feel like you're in a blurry dream because of how bad it was. I almost feel like he's now accepted it. I think the one takeaway I took from that, Gareth, is that if you were to have asked me if AJ is going to fight again, I would have probably said, no, absolutely not. Having watched that, I believe he will. I believe he will fight again. And I believe now it's almost a road to recovery. And then I do think there's going to be some sort of announcement in the summer about AJ. But it was good to see him speak, not sit down, kind of go back and forth with a journalist, but just give his own take on it. And I think it's the best thing he could have done.
I thought it was very honest, very moving, very touching. His deepness and empathy for his departed friends, I thought showed again. I thought this when he fought Jake Paul, even though he'd broken the guy's jaw in 4 places, he's such a classy guy. AJ, he is a classy human being, and I was very touched. Obviously, he was very emotional doing it. I mean, he held himself together several times. He's been through an awful lot. He's so supportive, like you say, of their projects, of the two guys' projects, of the families, what the families have gone through. And I love the fact he said that I didn't realise, because it was a really strong message, I didn't realise in life what they meant to me. And that I know they'll be sitting waiting for me when I depart this life. It's very, very, hairs on my neck standing up right now. It's very, very touching and very moving. And it was clearly, he's a very deep person, Anthony Joshua, and he's a good person. I know he's a bad guy trying to be good all the time, in terms of what he is as a big, bruising, destructive heavyweight. I've always liked him. I mean, I get accused of being a Tyson Fury fanboy and an AJ detractor, and I'm nothing of the sort. He's always been brilliant with me. Big G, always asking my opinion. You know, big fist bump, a hug every time I see him. Yeah, well done, AJ. And I really do want to see him back. And I think it's going to be a giant fight wherever it takes place against Tyson Fury with 100 million viewers on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Perfect segue that is, because Tyson Fury versus Arslan Makhmudov has now been confirmed. The date, April 11th. The broadcaster, as you heard Gareth allude to there, Netflix, not DAZN, which may surprise some, but I think if you dig a bit deeper, maybe it isn't as surprising as maybe some first thought, considering that Tyson Fury has never been exclusive to DAZN.
Correct.
His fights against Wilder, his fights against Wilder and ESPN, the fights over here with TNT. Riyadh season made it DAZN, but it was never exclusive to DAZN. Would you make of this? He's finally officially back, although we kind of knew it was. And would you make of the opponent, Arslan Makhmudov?
Yeah, I mean, and a little bit of misinformation went out this week when that was announced from some of our colleagues on talkSPORT. Tyson Fury is not on an exclusive deal with DAZN. So no. Frank Warren is his promoter. He's promoted by Queensberry, but he isn't signed to DAZN, so he can do whatever he wants. And even at this stage, and also in boxing, money always talks. And, you know, rather like Anthony Joshua is exclusive to DAZN, and he was allowed to step aside, and there was step aside money for DAZN for him to fight Jake Paul last December. So, you know, this will always happen. And right now, the giant streaming platforms, Netflix, YouTube, if Ed Pereira makes that work, and if he doesn't make that work with IV Boxing, I Visit Boxing, someone else will, because the major streamers, Amazon, they're coming on board. They realize that this is mega theatre. The big events, the big boxing events have always been global. They've always done big numbers. So, again, to our point about Netflix, I think I said to you, and I will have said several times on our broadcast since December, when I saw how much the Netflix executives were into Anthony Joshua out here, and when he resonated with the American audience, when he stepped aside to fight Jake Paul in the circus fight here in Miami in December, a light bulb went off in my head that he'd be fighting Tyson Fury on Netflix. We've moved a step forward with this Arslan Makhmudov on April the 11th. On Netflix as well. They will be in the big streaming game. And I'm also hearing there is a chance they may have to move the date, because Man United at the moment are scheduled to play at home against Leeds, I believe, on April the 11th. Yeah. There is a chance, I can only say that, they're looking at Old Trafford as the venue for Tyson Fury and Arslan Makhmudov, which I do hope they get, because it's always been an ambition of Tyson Fury's.
Yeah, that was the one thing that was left out of the poster, wasn't it? We had a date, we had an opponent, we had a broadcaster, but we didn't have a venue. And I think everyone's been scratching their heads as to where this fight would take place. I mean, would it be an arena? Obviously not. This is Tyson Fury. He's a stadium fighter. It would most certainly be a stadium. What stadium? And I thought maybe the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, because he's been there Wembley. He's been there. He's done all the stadiums apart from, as you say, Old Trafford. He's a big Manchester United fan, and he's teased Old Trafford a few times. So I do wonder if there might be a change of date to accommodate Mr. Tyson Fury versus Makhmudov. On Makhmudov, obviously, look, a big heavyweight, a solid top 20 guy, right?
Yeah.
Not an elite heavyweight, but a good one. We saw that against Dave Allen. Can he cause this Fury at 37, maybe not the same legs, any problems?
Yeah, absolutely he can. Because if he beats Tyson Fury, maybe he gets an Anthony Joshua fight. And if Tyson Fury hasn't got the legs left anymore, he's coming up 38, we'll find out. Arslan Makhmudov is an adequate and resonant opponent for this comeback fight. Fury's been out 15 months. Makhmudov's been active. He's done 12 rounds with Dave Allen. He likes to come forward. He's a perfect style for Tyson Fury to jab his head off and hit him with 1-2s and holds and all of those things. And if Tyson Fury's still got if it's the same Tyson Fury that fought Alexander Usyk in December 2024, can you believe I'm saying that? December 2024, that's a long time ago in our lifetime in boxing right now, Ade. Think about what happened in 2025 and how the landscape's changing. If Tyson Fury's that same guy, I think he dismantles Makhmudov and stops him in 7-8 rounds. But if he has life and death with him, maybe I start to stretch towards Anthony Joshua being a slight favourite against him when they meet in the ring. So obviously Anthony's coming off the Jake Paul win, which you can't read much into, but he's enough of a banana skin for us to sit up and take notice of what Makhmudov might be able to do.
And look, this is looking ahead, but let's do it. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. You just mentioned Netflix, and I'm with you, right? The Netflix will make the biggest play for it. There's been some talk today being Tuesday, about Zuffa making a play for it as well. Obviously, they've got the pockets, they've got deep pockets, both of these organizations. How big a blow for DAZN would that be, considering all the build-up really has, the last couple of years, that this fight will be on DAZN, and AJ, again, is a shareholder in DAZN. He's a DAZN ambassador. He literally is Mr. DAZN. And yes, it's okay letting him go to fight Jake Paul and then being compensated. But how big a blow for DAZN not to get Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury?
Yeah, it is a blow for them, but you've got to look at the numbers speaking. I mean, Netflix have 325 million subscribers. We're seeing this algorithm shift, the tectonic plates of broadcasting shift for the very big fights. That Netflix have done 200 million views in the 4 events they've shown so far. 200 million views. Yes, a couple of them have been circus acts, unfortunately. 110 million for Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. But we could get to those kind of numbers for Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury if Netflix do a build-up series. There's a documentary on Netflix coming out about Anthony Joshua. There's the second At Home with the Fury series that's been filmed and about to come out. Tyson Fury was a big hit for weeks and weeks and weeks with that series. I think it was 9 episodes. And it was so funny and extraordinarily successful. And these guys Netflix, I mean by this, are getting into the live event business. We all binge series on there. We relax in the evening watching a movie, but they're programming us to go towards this giant app for live streaming. They did NFL at Christmas. They did WWE, which WWE weren't happy about. And in terms of the Zuffa boxing question, if Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudi Arabians are putting the mega bucks into Usyk, Joshua and Fury right now to end the era as they helped the heavyweight division explode 2.5 years ago, Ade, they're finishing the round. And if they're putting the money in, they will have the say. And I imagine Turkey Al Sheikh, with Salah having 60% stake in TKO, in Zuffa boxing, and TKO Holdings having the other 40%. If Turkey Al Sheikh's putting up tons of money for these 3 guys, I imagine Usyk's fights will be on Netflix as well. And we could see the end of the era played out on Netflix. And maybe that involvement with Zuffa boxing, because Turkey's got that involvement with them as well.
Yeah, Turkey did say, and I was trying to find the tweet as you were talking. Turkey tweeted something about Netflix, saying he has a big surprise coming up for an announcement on Netflix. So clearly, Turkey's in the Netflix business big time, as he is with DAZN, as he is with Zuffa. He seems to be sort of this puppet, and he's got like everyone on strings at the moment, and everyone gets a little bit of something. But look, I'm just happy that Tyson Fury's back, and I'm happy. It looks like, again, I'm only going off a 6-minute video, that AJ could be back as well. So all good when it comes to the superstars of boxing. All right, I spoke about our world champions earlier in the show. The oldest or the longest world champion we've got at the moment is Mr. Nick Ball, who is the current WBA featherweight champion, and he takes on Brandon Figueroa this weekend live in Liverpool. Another homecoming for Nick Ball, against a former world champion. Another test for Nick Ball. Obviously, there is a frustration that it's not a unification. I mean, this is, I think, his 4th defense of this belt. He wants unifications. He wants super fights. But this is the big ask. This is a big test against a much taller opponent in Brandon Figueroa, experienced as well. But this is what Nick Ball does. He doesn't turn down the test and the challenges, does he?
He doesn't. They're all taller than him. He's only 5'2", remember. He's a pocket battleship. And this guy's 5'9", Brandon Figueroa. Again, I'm doing a background Murtazaliev here on Josh Kelly from last week. I think this is a really tough fight for Nick stylistically. Obviously, he's got the great wins against Ray Ford. I think Ray Ford is his greatest victory in the featherweight division. And I think he's a great champion, Nick. He's undefeated. Ray Vargas, I don't understand how that was ever scored a draw in Saudi Arabia. He won that fight for me. Brandon Figueroa will get the best out of him, the 29-year-old Mexican-American. He's only lost twice to Stephen Fulton on points. The fact Nick's at home gives him a big advantage. And Fulton's only lost to Noya Nui and Oshaki Foster. So you're looking at the levels here. 29-odd fights. I think 60% knockout from Figueroa. Very clever boxer and box fighter. Nick's got to get ahead early in this, and he's got to be that horrible rash over him for the entire 12 rounds. It's going to be razor tight. My heart says Nick. I'm going to be there for talkSPORT, obviously. I imagine you're up there as well. And my heart says Nick, but I just think this guy's style might be a little too much for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. You want Nick to get it done, and look, ultimately, I think Nick will get it done, but Brandon Figueroa, I don't know if the UK fight fans or the casual fight fans realize just how good this guy is. He's a fantastic boxer, and don't be fooled by his kind of kiddie good looks. He will scrap as well. He's happy to scrap on the inside, on the outside. And I remember thinking Nick Ball didn't look too great against Sam Goodman in his last fight in Riyadh. I was ringside for that, and I thought he looked a bit flat. And one thing about Nick is he fights a lot, and all his fights do go the distance. They go 10, they go 12. So he's never knocking someone out early and getting an early night's rest. He's having to go to the well all the time. And I always feel like, how many times are you going to have to go to that well when then you realize there's not much water down there? Mm-hmm. So hopefully there is something left in Nick. He's had a bit of a rest finally. His last fight was in August. He's had, 4 or 5 months off. I think this is a tough ask. But I also think Nick has just got this pit bull in him, which he will come through. He's going to have the Liverpool crowd with him as well. And then, I mean, hopefully it's unifications. I mean, Shushu Carrington won a world title on the weekend. That's a potential fight. There's always been talks about Inoue going up, maybe one, if he can get past Nakatani. So there are big fights out there, provided he gets through this one unscathed.
Yeah, I've been calling for the fight with Noya Nui for 2 years now. I think it would be a great fight for him at featherweight. I think he beats Nick, but I think physically Nick will give him a great challenge. I think you can see what Zuffa Boxing in Turkey were trying to do with Bam Rodriguez a week ago, and obviously Eddie Hearn managed to maintain his relationship and deal with Bam Rodriguez. I think they're trying to get him in the ring with Noya Nui this year. If Nick wins, he should be calling out Noya Nui. Big, loud and proud. Paul Stevenson's done a great job with him. I'm looking forward to being up there. As I say, heart says Nick, head says Brandon. And the thing is about Brandon, he's from a boxing family. I'm so glad you said that, because the British boxing fans won't know a lot about him, but he's a great stylist. Nick needs to... If Nick is really successful in this fight, It took him a while to get into the TJ Doheny fight as well, if you recall, to eventually get to him. If Nick starts well, I want to see him fluent, and I want to see his timing there. And I don't want to see him smothering his work too much, even though he needs to get his head on the chest of Figueroa, who's 7 inches taller. He's got a massive reach advantage. Everyone's got a reach advantage over Nick, but I wish him well on Saturday night, and I can't wait to be up there, Eddie.
Yeah, I'll be doing sort of the in-ring post-fight interview, and look, I'm going to push him to call someone out. Like, he wants unification. Sometimes you've got to scream and shout for them. I know some fighters don't like doing it, and they pass that on to their managers or trainers. Nick's got to do it. If you want the Inoue fight, you've got to scream and shout for Inoue. You want the unifications. Again, Bruce Carrington just won the title on the weekend. You've got to scream and shout for him, or you're not going to get them. It's quite difficult. So let's see what he can do. I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's live on talkSPORT at the weekend. Is it the A-team? Is it you, Cattrall, Spencer? Is it the A-team?
I think it's me, Cattrall, Spencer, and John Rawling. It's the A-team, baby.
It's the A-team, baby. It is the A-team. And Gareth always does a good job of trying to nick my space in the interviews straight after. Gareth literally right behind me. When I've done my interview, I turn around and Gareth's right there in the ring, as he will be on Saturday as well. Gareth, as always, my man, thank you very, very much. Get home safe. Look forward to seeing you on the weekend. You have been listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Big thanks, as always, to Gareth for joining me today. Remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back as always next week.